what we need to do is we need to live life. We need to go through suffering, hardship, struggle, challenge, suffer through life, endure it, okay? And gain the wisdom so that we can help other people and guide them through life, enduring the same hardship, suffering, and pain. That's our goal. If the person's goal is I want to be happy, then you'll be miserable for the rest of your life.
Welcome to another episode of Live by the Sword with Grandmaster Taejoon Lee, and my name is Ferny Ceballos. I'm your host and moderator here, and I'm really excited. It's been a few weeks since we've done an episode here, and we're going to dive into discussing the topic related to an article that was recently put out on social media through our Hwarangdo newsletter, and then also will be featured on Budo Journal. And I have here, of course, as always, Grandmaster Taejoon Lee. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Long time no see.
Yes, sir.
How's Australia?
Australia was beautiful, but it was raining a lot. I was there for 30 days, and it didn't rain for 5 days, so only 5 days of sunshine.
Oh my goodness.
And
that sounds like the weather here in Luxembourg.
Yeah, it's still raining. It's terrible. I've never seen Australia that way, but I'm glad to be back, sir. I'm glad to be back here with you. And I wanted to dive in. Just this article that you published will be shared across social media and our newsletter, and on Budo Journal, an international magazine for martial artists. And it's about leadership. And I wanted to just start off. It's titled "To Lead or Not to Lead," and I wanted to just start off by asking you, just what is the thesis or just general message of the article before we kind of dive into the details, because I think that's important to establish.
Yeah. Well, actually, it started with one of my instructors, asking me a question, or one of the situations that took place with one of my instructors, and I told him to, that he needs to take greater charge, and he's a senior instructor, and step up. And his reply was a little reluctant, and it was with hesitation. So that was what sparked me to talk about this subject. I mean, of course, we deal with leadership all the time. I mean, that's what we do. But what I ended up telling him is that leaders don't need to be told to lead. And that was actually the original title of this article. It's that idea, people who lead, take charge, they don't need to be told to do it. So actually in our workforce, or at whatever type of institution or organization, when you're promoted or when you get a rank and you're told you have higher position, that's actually artificial leadership. It's a but real leadership, or a person who is a real leader, they'll take charge, and they won't wait. They don't need they don't need a promotion. They don't need somebody recognizing them and telling them that to take charge. So I go in depth about that. What is then required to have a character or personality like that, and then and what makes up the idea of being assertive, and why is somebody more assertive than another, and so I go more deeper into that.
Yeah, and you mentioned talking about assertiveness. You talk about that leaders are assertive. There's a more independent mind or confidence, but you also mentioned that that assertiveness by itself can lead to, you know, negative consequences or misfortune. Can you
Yeah.
expand on that?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, right? It's actually, this is not really, explained deeply. There are many things that needs to be kind of worked out from the article, but um, eagerness and assertiveness are I would distinguish the two,
Mm,
right? Um, and I think a lot of times we confuse eagerness with assertiveness. Um, and when I say eagerness, is it's being assertive without understanding the real consequences of wrong decisions, which leads them to ill action, negative results, um, and um, so just by being eager or being assertive without understanding the consequences, which I would call eagerness, is it can lead them into trouble. They'll get themselves into trouble not knowing the real consequences of what they're doing, and then they'll create a mess that usually somebody else has to clean up. um, and if they continue in this way, um, uh, then all their decisions that they end up making, the assertiveness, the eagerness, is just a means of getting them into trouble, rather than creating any type of meaningful result or benefit for the individual person or the
mm,
group. So it is more damaging for a person to to have them be eager. So you know we um, we're at fault as leaders or people who are in authority over others, whether you're a parent, a teacher, or a boss, and you encourage people to do and many different things, uh, and by doing it, by uh, you know having them be assertive, or you think that you're going to create assertiveness by having them try many different things, so they won't be afraid to try different things or try new things. So you think that the end result of that will be assertiveness. um, but I state that I beg to differ.
how so, sir?
Well, uh, the reality is when a person uh, does many different things, that they're going to run into many different problems and many different conflicts, many different struggles. Um, and uh, so what will happen is, uh, you know, they will start many different things, but they will never finish many different things,
Mm,
right? When things get so, doing many different things is okay if you also have uh, a built-in understanding, which makes it difficult for the person to give up or quit or abandon. You know that they have to see it to the end, but that's not really the case. When you have somebody, let them do everything, and when they don't do it, what you do is, because you don't want them to be afraid. Remember, the entire goal was trying to have them not uh, be reluctant or hesitant to engage in new endeavors. So if the consequences of not finishing or quitting a particular a thing, task, um, then that's going to instill fear and negative feeling or attachment to it. So they won't do that. So the saying goes, okay, don't worry, it's okay. You don't worry about losing, don't worry about failing, right? Just just do it, right? Um, but the thing that happens is when people end up doing that, right? They're not uh, People are not stupid, and then you have the unconscious self, you have the subconscious, which knows that, hey, I'm not finishing stuff, I'm not succeeding. Okay, I'm doing many things, but i'm not uh, I'm not seeing it to completion. So they will start to then develop internally, whether they know it consciously or not. They'll start to create, have more doubts, um, and and their self worth is going to diminish. And so that would be the normal response. And then I continue from there.
Yeah, and so you did mention that part of, somebody taking on a task, endeavor, and being, I guess, instilled the value of not quitting, the value of seeing things through. That in the absence of that, there's negative there's going to be, not the absence of it, but in doing that, they're going to deal with negative consequences. They're going to deal with having problems, arise as a result of not quitting, because the reason anyone quits anything is because there's an issue or problem that arises that they couldn't or didn't want to handle. And so, and you talk about that instills resiliency, like when somebody is willing to see it through. Can you talk about resiliency, and just in the broader context, like I see a lack of resiliency in society today, and children today, and even adults today. And so, can you speak on the value of that, and just the importance of seeing things through?
Yeah, you see, so um, this is the difficult, complex, issue. I mean, it's not a simple answer.
Mm.
Um, uh, so so what my point, of that is that just having somebody do uh, many different things, uh, and if they don't succeed, um, and they have an easy way out,
Mm.
uh, that by human nature, that's my dog there, um, um, that we're going to follow the easier path.
Mhm.
So if the way out is given to them and it's easily accessible and it's readily available, they'll take it. So this is the issue of today. Okay. And just to illustrate that, I mean, I've been dealing with this recently a lot. And being here in Luxembourg now, I'm dealing with a generation of people in their 30s. Most of my students are in their 30s, a few in their 40s and 50s. But even the people in their 50s, it it dumbfounds me, and I've been trying to figure out why this is, or it's just me that maybe I've been teaching incorrectly recently, because I've been teaching, I think, consistently for a very long time, and it seems like that they have a barrier, a threshold that they won't cross. So let me explain. I mean, one of the this has been a huge issue, which is the fundamental foundation of our martial art, right? Hwarangdo, which is nakpop, falling
Mhm.
techniques,
Yep.
right? So we have the regular falls, the break falls, right? Side fall, back fall, front fall, and then you have the flip fall, right? Now, when you have somebody grab you and throw you like a shoulder throw or hip throw, you are supported. The weight is supported most of the way through. So the difficult throw or fall is the joint lock throws or the wrist throw, right? Because you're being pulled by the hand, and then you have to eject yourself, because if you don't, you just crash onto your head. So you literally have to kind of throw yourself, right?
Not to mention the breaking of the wrist potentially.
Yeah. So you got to go, or you're going to damage the wrist, the joint, or you're going to just if you're reluctant, you'll just smash the head to the ground, which is the objective of the technique. But in
Mhm.
order to prevent it, you have to actually put some uh, effort and push off the ground to get the height and rotation, so you can get the lift and let gravity do the thing, and fall without getting hurt, right? So, and Hwarangdo, basically every technique um, you're thrown, right?
Mhm.
Every technique ends up on the ground, you're thrown. So everybody has the I majority. I've never seen so many people get to that point and that be their wall that they can't overcome. So even we're going through it right now, I mean, it doesn't matter, man, woman, 30s, 50s, you know, very capable, right? Athletic, to somebody who's never done it before, who's very reluctant, same. Um, and, you know, of course, you're taught in baby steps. We have crash mats. They fall on the crash mats, fine. Okay? Crash mat, fine. Then you on the mat, which is already like 3-4 inches thick. And now they do the throw and they just completely lose it. It just happened a few days ago. Um, also, so you ready? Yes, yes. And then soon as uh, she's being thrown, in the middle of it, she basically just abandons herself. She just, you know, what I'm saying? She's gone. So what happens? Boom. She hits her shoulder and head on the ground. Um, and I've been trying to think, like, what's going on? What's going on? And and what I see now, this is a product, okay, um, of a generation of people that cannot, they 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 don't or cannot deal with conflict. Um, so when they hit a wall, they don't try to go through it. They don't try to smash it down, go around it, do whatever. They just stop. They just stop, and they just do something else,
Mm.
right? And I think this is all what the point I'm getting to comes to a generation where the parents, from the parenting, Ajima, okay, good boy.
He wants part of the show, sir.
Yeah, he's always. It's okay, when we're alone, he doesn't do this. It's when I'm talking with somebody, he does this.
Well, it's just like my son. It's like I start talking to his mom and ignoring him. He like
Yeah,
starts like, hey, pay attention to me.
yeah. So it's a generation where uh, the children, and home, they are more protected.
Mm-hmm.
They are protected from the negative consequences or the conflict or whatever. At schools, we have this idea of zero tolerance, uh, and they're also protected. And at the workplace, also, they have zero tolerance, and they don't want conflict at all. So the whole life is all about trying to rid conflict, not have conflict at all. But it is only through conflict that you grow. And this whole generation and this whole thing we're seeing right now, and that's why people can't have actual discussions. And either they uh, the behavior is it's very juvenile. It's very juvenile. It's like a kid not getting their way and they throw tantrums, right? So it's like it's like all or nothing in that way, right? I'm doing it as long as it's fun, or no, forget it. I give up. I'm not doing it. There is no tenacity. There is no sense of perseverance. Um, you know, um, so they don't want to deal with any type of conflict or hardship. So when you have that, the outcome cannot create true leaders. Because they're only leaders by position, by title. But they're not leaders in the sense of leading by example. Mm-hmm. Because that requires, tenacity. It requires perseverance. It requires courage, right? It requires, and I mentioned, the idea of conviction, unreasonable conviction. Mm-hmm. Like nothing will prevent them from achieving their goal. But then I go on to talk about other things about that. If you can't just have that, because now that's an issue too.
Well, one of the things that just stood out when you were talking, and it is related to this, is on one end you have the people who are avoiding any conflict or avoiding any negative outcome, and so they're afraid, so they try and quit a lot of things, and they have this lack of resiliency. And then on the other side, I think there's another extreme being created, that where there's people that are assertive and bold without purpose, in a more, they're more out for themselves. It's more self-serving. It's
Yes.
not, because I think leadership needs to have the component of, I'm doing this to help people, humanity. And I'm seeing that too. It's like you see that's like equivalent of like an adult bully.
Yeah.
That they're just out to attack anyone. They're not afraid of conflict, but there is no
Yeah.
purpose other than a self-serving one.
Yeah.
Because you didn't mention this specifically in your article, but I that just stuck out for me when you were
No,
talking.
no, no. I have.
Okay.
That was my point. That was my point.
Yeah.
See, so the normal reaction with many people do, okay, when they're put in that situation, do a lot of things, do many things, and they and try, don't worry about losing, all that, and they're praised for their efforts and not really the end result. That's all good, but so normal common person, it should be that as they continue this route, realize that what, I'm not really good at anything, and and their self-worth would diminish. But uh, but in more cases than not, what happens is exactly the opposite. Our internal survival mechanism is strong, okay, and that is going to twist and turn that idea, uh, and bury that, and then you'll become more self-entitled. You'll take that, you should feel that, hey, you know what, I really didn't accomplish anything, to, what, I've done a lot of things, and I deserve better, right? Because you're now constantly praised. constantly praised for your efforts. So when you don't have that kind of negative, don't experience that negative consequences, then what you don't learn, the idea of responsibility and accountability, the consequences of wrong choices. And you need that in order to cultivate within the person the idea of humility, the idea of compassion, empathy. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yeah.
That struggle is what will create those things, but they don't. So they start to have a delusion that they're actually better and deserving more than they really are really is the case. So they are detached actually from reality, from the real perception of who they truly are, and then live in this false delusional perception. Then that makes them what? And then all this environment, all our society, everything's created to do what? Create narcissism.
Yeah, you're talking about the Machiavellian nature comes out, where it's like the ends justifies the means, and it's like what I was referring to, and you did mention in the article, was creating. Okay, you have the assertiveness, you have the person that's like bold and willing to do and try anything, but and maybe the outcome is the only thing they care about. But I think also there's what's important is how you get there. Like, how was the outcome achieved? So when I read that part about where you were talking about praising the attempt versus praising the outcome, uh, I think also there's the middle of it. It's like, how does the praising how the outcome was achieved as opposed to just the outcome itself. And you mentioned that in that. Can you expand on that, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, the idea the end justifies the means, the Machiavellian concept. I mean, a lot of people talk about this. That's what it's told to us. You can do anything you want. You know, you can do anything you want. It's as long it's a matter of how badly you want it. So stick with it. Follow your heart. They always constantly talk about these kinds of things. But in reality, the things that you really can't do all the things you want. The only people that can really do what they want, they have to force it. They have to force it through pure will, strength, many times corruption, many times doing the wrong things, many times stepping, crushing over others. Um, regardless, you have to do it regardless what other people feel, think, what you do to others, your single-mindedness in this self-driven self. And you know that kind of pure uh, sociopathic narcissism. Yeah, you can do that. Maybe you can accomplish it. That's purely. But what is the result? The result is uh, you've hurt, you've done wrong to many people, you've broken laws, you're probably immoral or amoral. And is that good? And um, well, the um, um, you can argue that many people in position of power and leadership today fall into that category of that kind of sociopathic narcissism, right? Um, and that's what I said. Power begets power, and greed. They don't have control over that. And the more taste that, and the more they have it, the more they want it. And when they have it, they're not going to let it go. And that constantly builds. So you might build, it might start with good intentions, but once money, fame, recognition, power starts to come into play, human beings cannot control that. Right? We are fallen in that way. I know a lot of people, you know, through my students, which I've taught over now 45, 46 years, almost 50 years. And, and, uh, and dealing with many people, I've known rich people, I've known powerful people, and otherwise. And I tell you, I've not seen people who have lots of money, fame, or power, uh, who fall into um, a moral, uh, happy uh, saint. You don't find them, right? They're actually become very, um, very insecure, hypersensitive, very, protective and fearful that other people are going to take advantage. And they're trying to protect what they have. Um, so um, that's a huge problem. So those people, that kind of whether you're acting in that way, whether you're acting sociopathic or you have a serial problem, uh, the the damage that they're doing to themselves and society is the same. Is the same. And the way that has to be monitored or controlled is the way we educate, the way we parent uh, has to change.
Yeah, as you were speaking, sir, I was reminded of a time that I was competing, um, in a school tournament for grappling, and I was competing against a much smaller person. Like he was the finalist, but he was good, but I was much bigger, and I won the match, but I used a guillotine choke that where I actually picked him up, like he was off the ground, and I
Uh,
showed this to you after the match, and at the time I was like, and it's like I feel terrible now, but at the time I was like, well, I won. That was kind of cool. Then I showed it to
yeah,
you. I showed
yeah,
you that what I did, and
right.
you got very upset with me,
Uh-huh.
and because of how I won, and it was like I used my size and strength, not technique. First of all, there was no technique. It was size and strength to win, and but then also putting him at risk. We're brothers,
Yeah, yeah,
and afterwards I was like, oh, I just felt terrible. I can't even look at
yeah.
that uniform that I won. Like, has that. I just felt terrible, and it was just like an important lesson right there. Is just like how you win. It wasn't just getting the trophy, the championship. It was like how you win is just as important, and that always stuck with me. But also, it just make me realize like how even good, decent people can also like lose sight of that, and without somebody there to check them and make them aware. Because if there's no one to check, then
Yeah,
that behavior
yeah,
continues and it turns
yeah.
into this like manufactured sociopathy.
Absolutely, absolutely. You seem to get a little emotional here.
Oh yeah, well, I didn't hurt him, but the
Yeah,
potential of that was there.
right,
So just
right.
thinking about that gets me emotional.
Yeah, yeah. You see, that's what happens, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you're the kindest person I know. You're a gentle bear. I mean, gentle teddy bear. Um, and I would never think that you would intentionally harm anybody. But this is what I'm saying to you, right? When we when we're in that heat of the moment, right? When you're thinking about winning, uh, or succeeding or getting rich or whatever it is. You see, we lose that, um, we lose our sensibility,
Mhm.
right? And focused only on the task. So yeah, yeah, that's a big lesson, right, for you. And I deal with those kind of things all the time. So through what we do, also, that's why, right, for us, winning is not the most important thing, right? And of course, winning, it is, everything's about winning, and it's all about success. Of course, it is. But we create a balance of that, and that's why we don't ever go into the idea of full contact, because you don't want to win to incapacitate and force somebody to not be to knock them out or incapacitate them in order to win. You don't want to win by harming another person.
Mhm.
It is by skill and control, right? By your self restraint and self control is how you should win. So, um, so it is not the end justifies it. This is why we constantly reiterate the point, right? Um, uh, Martial art or the sport part, whatever it is not the end. Martial art for us is a means. It is a means of cultivating good human character, right? Um, and so we have to focus in exactly that. Yeah, how how we get there, what we do, how we live our life. Not that we succeeded, not that we're rich, not that we're famous. How do we get there? And in fact, and this is why I'm saying to you, people want power, people are rich, people are famous, whatever it is, they only know how they got there, right? And many of them got there not in good ways. So when they get there, they're very dysfunctional, right? So because the method in which they got there uh, was dysfunctional, and it only enhanced their dysfunction later on. So you're you know you can't destroy your conscience. You will live with yourself. You will haunt yourself, right? And so this is what many people don't realize, right? They just get to that, achieve their goal, achieve their wealth. They do it whatever the way they can, uh, and uh, and then they did terrible means to get there. And if they can sleep comfortably at nights, then right, then that's a psychopath,
Mhm.
right? That's a sociopath. I mean, they have that's an illness then, right? Uh, but in moments of clarity, they'll realize, wait a minute, you know, and but and this is what also the thing I've been thinking about, right? Who cares, right? Who cares about? Look at all the issues right now of this gender stuff, and it's just crazy insanity now, right? But that just created a whole new industry,
Mhm.
you know, um, right? And it will it's another source of money and income, sustainable money and income, because they're going to need therapy, they're going to need medication, they're going to need surgeries, etc., uh, for life, right? Who makes the money?
Yep.
You know, uh, you don't make money. You don't gain power by keeping people healthy and independent. You got to keep people unhealthy and dependent. And everything in our society, you know, uh, in my opinion, aims at that.
So there's something else that, like, this, before I read your article, like, I for my audience, people I train in business, and they're learning a marketing strategy, so they're learning how to promote the business so they can make money. And oftentimes that's the top of their mind. I'm doing this to make money, so show me how to make money. So show me how the process for selling what I have, so I can make money. And it's I keep having to remind them that that's a very one that's selfish state of mind, where the only reason you're following this strategy is self-serving, is not going to work, because then that's going to come through in everything you do, like that neediness for the outcome. And I teach, one of the principles I teach is influence. How do you have influence over your potential customer? How do you create that influence? And I said, well, influence is leadership. So how do you have them view you as a leader? I say, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. It's quite simple. Leadership is demonstrating that you can help somebody by actually helping them. And if you do that, they will want your help. Like, again, that it's perpetuating, where you're sure, if you serve them, they will want you to continue to serve them. They will want you to
Yeah.
continue to guide them
Yeah.
and lead them. So wanted to get
Yeah.
your thoughts on that, because it's a very simple way of describing it, but
Yeah.
I find that was the most effective way I can explain it, so that they
Yeah.
kind of shift out of that unselfish state.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's that kind of the golden law rule type of thing, right?
Hmm.
You help yourself by helping others, right? I mean, you do good unto others, what you want done to you. So as long as you're doing good and you help somebody, then yeah, then you're going to benefit. Now, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but
Uh,
also just how do you get people to view you as a leader, view you as
r-
somebody that can guide
yeah,
them?
yeah. See
It,
that's a little. See, that's what I'm saying. So that idea is there, but you use the word leader.
well, I guess there's, for me, I'm describing it as different, like, levels of leadership, versus being able to help a friend versus being able to lead a community. Those are very different.
Yeah. Well, even another person is the same. I mean, uh, because leading means also that they're going to follow. So the idea is, how do you make somebody follow you? Right, is what you're saying. So
Yeah,
when
that's the thing.
when
My point is, you can't make them.
right, exactly. 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 That's the idea of leading, right? Not forcing.
Right. You're not
You're
pushing them. Yeah.
yes, not pushing. You're leading. So, as the statement goes, you have a string, you push it, it gets tangled up. You pull it, it comes nice and straight. So yes, so the idea of leadership is the question is, how do you make somebody follow you, and that's your point, right? Which I agree. You can't make them follow you. So if you're consistent in what you're doing, if you do what you do, live by what you do, say what you do, and you show by action, and you're living by example, and by seeing that, they will they'll make the choice. And you know what? That's a good person to follow. So they'll gravitate toward you. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a natural sense of leadership, right? What I find, and this is what I've been trying to do for 40 years, right? Is create leaders, and that's a simple concept, but a very, very difficult thing to do. Um, you know, because the other component of leadership is you have to be accountable. No matter how much you decide, think things through, make choices, etc. And, some are good, but many times not. All right. and you're going to have negative consequences, right? What do you do then? In my opinion, a true leader is seen, a true leader is defined in those moments. In those moments of trial, conflict, negative consequences, what does the leader do then? Right? That really defines a leader for me. Okay. So what would a leader do? Well, leader would not blame. A leader would not blame. Leader will take the blame. And not only that, the leader will take the blame and try to alleviate the suffering of the people who followed him. That's what a leader would do. A true leader.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the case. That's not the case. Right? And one thing that you said also, and that's another huge important point. See, what we're forgetting, right, when we're calling ourselves leaders, or we call others leaders, or whatever it is, they see the leaders who are doing it for themselves, for their own selfish ends. That is dangerous to follow, right? A leader actually is one who serves. They are serving a purpose. They are serving uh, their subjects or their followers. They're in service to those people. And that's what they forget. That's what they forget. But it happens, a leader might start with that intention, but like all things, money, power, fame, it will corrupt them. So they'll lose sight of that, and they'll start to think, oh, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, and start to think of their own self grandizing and self preservation. Even though they might have helped a lot of people and still do, their goal now changes. It shifts from helping other people to helping me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So how do you regulate that? You see? And what is the breaking point? What is the point? When you're dealing with a few $1,000s, when you're dealing with millions, 10 million, where is the breaking point? When you start to go, wait a minute, there's money here. Right?
Yeah, it's something I wrestle with, because I've been getting coached by various leaders in business
Yeah.
that they're good people, but part of business is sometimes being very quick to fire or cut people if they're not serving the interest of the business. And I'm finding that the people that are most successful are quicker to do that.
Yeah.
But then also there's an impact on the person, and that's something that's you could say I've gotten better at being more quick, but I still hesitate because I care about the individual.
Yeah.
And it's just always this balance. It's like,
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
somebody a chance, but then also if
Yeah.
they're not showing
Yeah.
that that what you need,
Yeah.
being able to make that decision quickly
Yeah.
for the betterment of everybody else that you employ and support. And
Yeah.
that's always like, it's not a good or bad thing. It's just like, it's what you have to balance.
Well, that is a good or bad thing. You have to
Mhm.
think about that,
Yeah.
right?
Or it's both. Yes.
You know, uh, so right. So business. So you see, you you have to look at whatever the organization it is, what the end game is. You have to understand what the end motivation or goal is. And most business is money.
Mhm.
So no matter what you say, no matter what you're selling, at the end of the day, it's money. So when you have that as the end, it's very difficult to think anything else, but to be single minded in that way, to be efficient, to create the best situation, to create the greatest productivity.
Mhm.
So, you're not, you know, so different. Okay. The difference is, what's the flip side of that? The flip side of that is family, right? So if you run a company like a family, but then, who knows, right? What kind of family? There's many different families now, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's this, right? So who knows? Okay. But when I'm talking about a traditional, the idea of family, I guess in the sense of a biblical family, uh, it has a built-in systemized structure and order and things you should not and should not do. And the end game of the family, the end, is to sustain the family, right? To
You
sustain the family through
you
what? Love, care, protection, security, etc.
you don't give
Right?
up on each other type of
No,
mentality. Yeah.
that's right. Fidelity, right? Brotherhood, loyalty, right? All those things. So when you have the end as money, it's hard. It's hard to, you know, uh, so the idea of leadership. See, this is what my point is also. Uh, and this is what I started to say in the beginning. In position in the business corporate world, in a business, you know, um, you think leadership is title, and then you get paid more. Um, and my point is that title, and because you get paid more, don't make you a leader, right? A leader is already leading, whether he's in a low position or in a high position. He's leading. He's leading by example. He's doing what he says. He's on time. He's committed to his work. No one needs to tell him what to do. He doesn't do the minimal, he does the maximum. Whether he gets paid more, paid less, doesn't matter, right? But it is a political game in that arena. Why is that? Well, if you do too good of a job, you work too hard, and you don't have the rank and title, you get abused, right? You get taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
And in society too, that's what happens to nice people, right? So, like, that's what this says, right? So people like Jordan Peterson says things like that. You know, you have to be dangerous. And that's what he appreciates and values, martial arts. You understand that idea. That's what we do. You have to be dangerous. You have to have a certain level of malevolence. So people can't push you over and push you around, right? But you see, what I'm saying to you, this idea of knowing, okay, that's the technique to do, doesn't mean that one can do it, right? Intrinsically within our martial arts, that's cultivated intrinsically, because you have to stand and you have to fight, whether you win or lose, whether that person's bigger or smaller, better or stronger than you are. You have to stay in that ring. You have to fight. Okay. And if you get beat enough, you're going to start to develop that that sense of malevolence, wanting harm, inflicting harm, not wanting to deal with that anymore, etc. Aggression, right? And so it requires as I said in the article, a good, virtuous wielder, right? Who can mold the substance, hard substance of iron, and not of stone or clay, to something that is, powerful, and produce a virtuous leader. So, just the material itself, just being aggressive, just being whatever, won't do it. What a person actually needs is a good wielder, good mentor, teacher. So, in my opinion, if you want to be a good leader, you have to find a good teacher. See, this is the falsity, but in my opinion, okay, of all the motivational stuff and all these other things and leadership seminars and all these things, you know, because it's expecting the person to teach themselves by giving certain guidelines and rules, that by following them somehow they're going to transform themselves into a leader. You need to have a mentor, a close relationship. I mean, not just somebody, you know what I mean? You need a mentor that you spend time, that you can, you need that. That's what creates, in my opinion, good leaders, because that also, and that leader has to be good. When I say good, is that leader will give that restraint. See, like the same what I did with you, right? Those are not, those are rare to find. Okay, giving power and then teaching restraint, right? How do you create a warrior with compassion, right? How do you create warrior with compassion? In fact, the military, when you go in there to boot camp and all this stuff, what's happening is they uh, they're focused on just killing. They're taking actually that sense of humanity away, so it would be easier for them to take a life, right? But the other way is better, but it takes more time, because you have to instill that sense of humanity, compassion, and it actually will make a better warrior. But that takes time.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, I don't know. I said a lot of things there.
I was just, as you're talking, I'm just reflecting. It's this, even with people who are aware, as I was sharing in my example, it's like, it's so easy to kind of just lose that awareness. And if you don't have that feedback, a good person could become lost, or but then also there's also, when you have a mentor, getting feedback, that feedback is not always nice to hear. It's difficult at times, but that also creates resiliency. It's not just praising the things you do good, but also, and you've mentioned this many times, as you've taught us, is like getting that negative feedback and negative reinforcement. It's like, doesn't feel nice, and it seems harsh to the observer, but then also it creates resiliency, and it's a resiliency that sometimes I don't see, or oftentimes I don't see in other people, and it frustrates me because they don't have the same level of resiliency. They're like, therefore they're not living up to their potential. But it's like, how did I get that resiliency? It was with you. It was getting that harsh feedback where it's like, almost, you don't mind it anymore. It's normal. Whereas other people aren't, you give them that feedback, and you got to approach it with kid gloves,
Yeah, you see, that's the issue. That's the problem, right? I mean, I just dealt with it right now today. I had a discussion with my instructors. We just had a belt testing. the belt testing wasn't so good, right? The students weren't good. And this has kind of, been the pattern for the last few months. So I told him, I said, I I'm losing faith in you. Okay. And he decided that it was okay. He thought it was okay. And to this was what? This was on a Sunday, and uh, a Monday night around 11 o'clock at night, I got a text from him saying, first of all, you have to understand, I don't, I tell people, nobody sends me texts or messages before 8 o'clock in the morning and after 10 p.m. Okay.
That's still very generous. 10 p.m. It's pretty late.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to, stick with the kind of the legal law type of thing, right?
Yes, sir.
So, and at 11 o'clock, he sends me a text something in the nature of, um, unfortunately, unfortunately, I don't think I can meet your expectations. And what you said to me, and whatever, it's affecting me negatively. And no greetings, no good night, no nothing, right? And he just left it. And it said, I don't know, something at the end, my desire is still great, something, but and that was it. And like, wow. And uh, I, I, I didn't reply, but could I sleep easily, sleep well? No. How does one do that, right? So I ended up talking with him today, and fortunately, of course, good thing, I didn't respond, and I wasn't going to. He texted this morning, and texted in the morning, and said, can I talk to you, whatever. And so I said, okay. So that was Tuesday, and then so I talked to him this morning, and my point is, what would it be like, okay, if you went ahead and you disciplined your child, right? You discipline your child, and then before your child goes to bed, your child comes out and yells at you and says, "Dad, you hurt me. You hurt my feelings." And he walks away, slams the door, and goes to bed. Okay? So I started by telling him, I said, look, what you're doing is childish behavior. This is childish behavior. Right? What is the childish behavior here? The problem here is, it's like a little child getting excited, saying, Dad, I want to do this, I want to do that. And you say, okay, go ahead. And then you give them support to go ahead and do it. And they go, they try it, it gets hard or difficult, they fail at it, and they come back crying to you. Okay? Now, what do? What do? See, this is where you define that child's character. Right? For me, if they failed, they're going to suffer the consequence of that failure. And they'll have to own up to it, whatever that is. I'm not going to say, oh, honey, it's okay. And then when the next time, though, he says, I want to do this, I want to do this, do I say to him, are you kidding me? You can't do it. You suck at everything. You failed at everything before. How are you going to do it? No. I say, okay, go ahead. Do you see what I'm saying to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, what I said to him is, but I'm teaching you how to be a man. What does that mean? That means if you said it, you got to do it no matter what. And you can't come crying to me. That's what's a man. A boy comes crying to his dad when he fails. A man, there's no one to go to.
Well, I think also what I got from that story was he was bothered and upset and saying what you said impacted me negatively. And my thinking was like, yeah, that's the point.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what I said to him. Do you think I told you that I don't have faith in you or I'm losing faith? You put other words, you don't trust me, you don't do this, whatever. I said, no, I chose the words very carefully. I said, I'm losing faith. What faith? What do I mean by that? Well, I'm losing faith that you're going to do what you do well, what I put you to do well. You can do it poorly, but I'm losing faith that you're going to do it well. Right? And it's not supposed to feel good. It's supposed to hurt you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like you can't, and that's the resiliency that is built through mentorship, as well as through experience, but through mentorship, that feedback, because there's so few people in society that are willing to speak to you in that way.
Yeah.
But it's coming from a place of love, but it's still difficult to hear.
Exactly. Of course. That's why I spent another hour and a half today talking with him and explaining everything to him so he understands. But I did it firmly, and the point I also said to him is that you're externalizing and you're blaming the problem, right? What do you mean my expectations? So let me ask you, I said, my first question was, what's your expectation then? What is your expectation? Is it different? So your expectation is that the students, they do this and that. So to you, that standard, it's okay? And he said, no. He told me the students were bad, that they were terrible. Okay? But, I understand this. And they try to explain all the reasons and why, whatever. And I stopped him and said, look, I don't need to hear this. I know why. Okay? I hear from you this all the time. Right? Okay? But the issue here is working it out. The problem, like I said, is that you promise I can do it. What? So there's a level of sense of pride and ego here, right? I said, if you're going to prove to me that you can do it, then do it. Make that goal and prove it to me. Or else you have to be humble and say, sir, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying my best, but I need your help. And I said, I'm always there for you. It is how you present it to me, right? So it is the way you're dealing with it, right? You're dealing with it like a child. You can't get your way and you're throwing a tantrum. And every time it's a crisis. You understand what I'm saying? I can't do it. I'm losing it. I can't do it. I'm losing my mind. He told me he had a breakdown. There's another crazy thing today. I see young kids. To me, they're young. They use this word, meltdown, breakdown, like it's, panic attack. There in my generation or my culture, you can't say those things. You know what's the most worst, the horrible cursing word you can say to another person in Korea?
No, sir.
Crazy. Mentally crazy. Mentally deficient. Panic. You can't have a breakdown. leaders can't have a breakdown. Right? And you have to know before you get there. So you don't ever have a breakdown where you're incapacitated and incapable of leading and taking on the responsibility because people depend on you.
I think also in the, and of course you knew what was happening, but when he sent you the text, what that signaled to me was like he's accustomed through other experiences, upbringing, that when he sends a message like that, it causes people to chase him, causes people to like come to him and reach out to him, because they're just, that's what he's accustomed to.
Oh
Otherwise he
yeah.
wouldn't have sent it, because he's trying
Yeah.
to get a response.
Well,
Like, this is how you made me
exactly.
feel. So
Exactly.
come, you need to make this right. Come talk to me.
Yes, exactly. But the thing is that he knows better. See, he did really have a meltdown. He really did have a breakdown. He wasn't thinking clearly because no way would it ever work for me, and he would be in big trouble. So
Yeah.
when he first came and talked to me again, I said, "What do you want? Did you come back for a second spanking? What'd you expect? I'm not going to receive that well at all." And I actually didn't see him. I did a video conference because I told him that this is something that we need to talk face to face. Okay, but I know you're busy with time, so I'll just talk to you video chat. But I did it for my restraint. I did it for my restraint. Okay, because that I know exactly what he's doing, why he's doing it. And what I also told him very simply, and this is what, and this is what we're different, why I'm different, and why we need, in my opinion, more of it. I do not support negative behavior, and I do not support weakness. Okay? So I don't sympathize. I don't give sympathy. Sympathy does not help another person. Now, let me give you another example. This other woman, right? Another student of mine, in her 50s, she's already a Hwarangdo student. She has to do this flip fall I was talking to you earlier, right? But why? And I told the other instructor there, and I told him, this is all you guys' fault, right? So why did it happen? Why is it now? She should already know how to do it. All the Hwarangdo techniques required to do the fall, right? What has she been doing for the last year? All the people who were working with her, knowing that she's smaller, older, whatever, went easy on her, had sympathy for her. Do you understand? When she should have been thrown around left and right and did whatever, and she would have been fine, and we don't have to deal with it now because they're in preparation for the digital championships right now, so it's immediate. They have to film this weekend, right? So this built up years of avoidance. Nobody wanting to deal with it. Do you understand? So it did not help her. It made it a crutch. And a leader, see, has to define that and has to take that person to that limit. And also, it's not, and if you understand with me, I don't just go ahead and reprimand or make somebody feel bad or put them or overburden them and give them a task that I know that they are it's over their head and not know a way out. I'm there to give the support, give the guidance, and give whatever it takes for that person to overcome that task, that challenge. And by doing that is how they gain true confidence. So, just never ending.
It's every new student. It's a whole new beginning. Every new person, every new school, every new instructor. It's well, I mean, I guess the interesting thing is that it repeats itself because we all had just have similar experiences, similar challenges, and it's
absolutely, absolutely.
But that pattern, being able to recognize that pattern as a teacher, is what enables you to help them because you already see it coming. You already know what's happening. It's not a mystery.
See, that's absolutely right. You see, this is the issue too. Why are they so afraid, right? Why is he having this situation where he's panicking? People having panic attacks, and things are getting out of control, and every problem or challenge that they see is like end of the world. Why does this happen? It's because they lack experience. They lack experience. They don't know the future. They don't know so they think it's the end of the world. This is what happens all the time in teens with teenagers. The problem is not so big, but when you don't know any other, it's huge, right? So that's the wisdom. That's why you need a guide. You need a mentor. Somebody to say, hey, it's okay. So I ended by telling him, essentially, our goal, okay? Essentially, what we do in Hwarangdo, if we are school leadership, if as leaders, right, what we need to do is we need to live life. We need to go through suffering, hardship, struggle, challenge, suffer through life, endure it, okay? And gain the wisdom so that we can help other people and guide them through life, enduring the same hardship, suffering, and pain. That's our goal. If the person's goal is I want to be happy, then you'll be miserable for the rest of your life. See, that's not the goal. See, that is essentially what a father or a parent does. You live life, you suffer through life, you grow older, and then what are you doing? You're guiding your child through life. And then I said to them, the idea of ownership. You need idea of ownership. Okay? Right? What do you mean my expectations? They are your students. You should want they're your people. You should want best for them. You have to have ownership. Everybody has to have ownership. I said, this is the entire issue and problem. Right? No person can raise a child better than your own. No other person can raise your child better than you. Are you hearing what I'm saying to you?
Yes, sir.
And then I said, what happens? We have children, right? We have children. You have one children, and you want more. You're struggling having one child, but you want more children. So you get another child. Okay, you get upset and whatever if you can't have a second one. Finally, you get a second one. Maybe you get twins this time. Now there are 3 of them. You're struggling, right? You struggled with 1, and surely you're going to struggle with 3. Okay? What do you do? What do you do? Maybe you get fired. Maybe you lose your job. Oh boy, we can't afford it. Let's get rid of one. Do we do that? Can you do that? You maybe have 5 children, right? And you're struggling. Can you get rid of a couple of them? This is life. This is life. The more you live life, the more you do, the more burden, more suffering, more responsibility, more hardships you're going to endure. Okay? And you cannot abandon them. You cannot abandon. And abandoning one is not going to solve your problem. Running away doesn't solve the problem. The entire thing in Hwarangdo is that to teach people not to run away, not to quit, not to give up, to face psychiatry, everything. The only agrees. The only way to overcome fear, struggle, hardship, you have to face it. You have to confront it. Running away solves nothing. This is what we're about. So that's the way we serve and help other people.
Oh, it's also, I mean, that's the only path to happiness or fulfillment. It's not running away from the problem, run
I
towards it.
don't even want to talk about the idea of happiness. You might be miserable, all right? Okay? But in that time also, it's not always happy. There's good times as well. Those are the rewards. So as I always say, happiness is a product of living life well. So when you do it well, then you get satisfaction, happiness, gratification, etc. You know, your child looks at you with a smile, plays at you while he's shitting in his diapers. Right? That's life. You see what I'm saying? Right? And then what do you have to do? You have to then clean his diapers with gladness. With gladness. Right? Think about it. That stinky poop, you have to do it with gladness. And then what happens? When he doesn't poo, you're worried. No, but think about what I'm saying to you when I put it in this context, in this metaphor. Shit happening you don't like or whatever. And shit doesn't happen, you worry. That's how it should be. See, if no conflict or no hardships, struggle, there is no way that's possible, first of all. Okay? It's not possible. Right? That is just negative consequences will always take place. All right? Whether you're an atheist or a believer. Because you require a just God. If you believe in a just God, then you have justice. All right? So, you cannot avoid it. So the right thing to do is to teach and help by teaching people how to deal and overcome those issues. See, that to me is a leader. That's a true leader, right? It's not about making somebody enjoying the good times, making them do good things, helping them make money or live a good life. A good leader is when they're struggling, when they're in hardship, whatever it is, and you're able to guide them when they're feeling depressed, when they're feeling powerless, that you're there to guide them, not to bail them out, but to guide them out of their hole that they've dug themselves into. See, if you just grab them and pick them out, it's not going to do anything. Right? You have to guide them out. They have to do the work. You have to just guide them. Guide. A leader is a guide. A guide. A light. Who shows the way. There's I also said, in the sense of a guide, is like when you're doing, psychedelic drugs. psychedelics, right? You could have a good trip or a bad trip. Okay? You can't do it alone. Why? If you never did it before, with the feeling you're feeling, you never sensed it, you start having panic attack. You have a panic attack, you could, stop breathing. All things can happen to you. You could potentially die even. Right? So you have somebody, what do? They just tell you it's okay. It's okay. It's going to be okay. Hold your hand. It just calms you down. See, this is what we need to do. This is what we need more of, right? And then you have them experience. They need the experience. You can't stop them from the experience. You can't prevent them from the experience, the hardship, the struggle, the suffering of life. Okay? You just have to be there. They have to know that you're there. Guide them. But they got to do the trip. They got to do the work on their own. They have to do the fight on their own. That's what I'm doing. That's what martial art is. We cannot fight for them. They must fight themselves.
Yes, sir. Well, we're almost at the bottom of the hour here. We've gone for about 85 minutes, sir. Is there anything else you wanted to share or say? Because I think that pretty much sums up.
No. I mean, I don't know. So there's now I'm getting started. Actually, I'm finally just waking up. And I guess we will continue on with doing some more now. We did before on teaching and parenting and so forth. On the qualities of leadership. Maybe we'll continue on the series about that. Um, and the last thing I just want to go ahead and say, and what I said in the paper too, whether somebody decides I'm a leader or I'm not a leader, I'm going to lead or not going to lead, and that's why it's titled To Lead or Not to Lead. Actually, you don't have a choice. Everybody has to lead. Okay? You have to lead yourself. All right? You have to lead yourself. You have to lead your life by making the right choices. And whatever choices one makes, good choices or bad choices, at the end, you're going to be judged by the choices you make. Whether you choose to follow other choices, other people, or make decisions on your own, whatever it is, ultimately, you make the choice. You're going to pay the consequences of the choices that you make. So you must lead. You must lead yourself.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for everybody for joining us, and Grandmaster Lee, always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.